I have to say that I was always in love. He never was, or if he was, he never expressed it to me. In all that time, he never said the words, I love you.
At 85, the iconic singer and actress, Tennille, is finally ready to open her heart and reveal the truth she kept hidden for so long to the world. She was the radiant half of the beloved duo, Captain and Tennille, singing the unforgettable words, "Love will keep us together." But behind the music, behind that bright smile that charmed millions, Tony was silently enduring a life filled with emotional struggles and unspoken pain. Her marriages, once seen as perfect fairy tales, carried secrets of loneliness, heartbreak, and difficult choices she never shared with anyone. Now, after decades of silence, Tennille is finally breaking free from the past and revealing the deeply personal truth about the love stories that defined her and the lessons she learned along the way. Before we begin, if you are a fan of Tennille, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Catherine Antoinette. Tennille's story began on May 8, 1940 in Montgomery, Alabama, where music and ambition quietly wove through her family's everyday life. The eldest of four sisters, she grew up under the watchful eyes of parents who were both dreamers in their own right. Her father, Frank Tennille, ran a furniture store by day, but once sang with Bob Crosby's Bobcats, keeping a touch of showbiz charm alive in the household. Her mother, also named Catherine, brought her own spark of creativity, hosting a daily television program in Montgomery, a rare feat for women in that era. Tony's early years were filled with the rhythm of Southern life and the melody of possibility. After graduating from Sidney Lanier High School, she attended Auburn University, immersing herself in classical piano and performing with the spirited Auburn Knights Big Band. But just as her world seemed steady, fate took an unexpected turn. When her father's business collapsed in 1959, the family left behind their familiar Alabama roots and started anew in Balboa, California. There, Tony traded her piano keys for office work, taking jobs as a file clerk and later as a statistical analyst, quietly carrying her musical dreams into a new and uncertain chapter. Long before Tennille became a household name as one half of Captain and Tennille, she experienced a quieter, lesser-known chapter of her personal life, her first marriage. In the early 1960s, while still navigating the uncertain waters of a budding musical career, she married Kenneth Shearer. At the time, Tony was immersed in the behind-the-scenes world of music and theater, honing her craft long before fame would find her. Their union was understated, almost invisible against the backdrop of her growing ambitions. And it lasted less than a decade, ending in divorce in 1972, just 3 years before Tony would achieve her breakout success. In interviews in her memoir, she rarely spoke of Shearer, and when she did, her tone carried neither bitterness nor regret, only quiet acknowledgement. There were no dramatic betrayals or heated memories, just the simple recognition that the marriage had not fulfilled the needs of her heart or her creativity. It lacked the deep, harmonious connection she would later cultivate with Daryl Dragon, and it didn't provide the personal growth she craved as a young woman finding her voice. In hindsight, that first marriage reads less like a failure and more like a stepping stone, a formative experience that quietly shaped Tony's journey. It marked the end of a chapter that never truly ignited, yet it set the stage for the next one in which her talents, ambitions, and desires would align in a way that eventually transformed her into the iconic figure the world would come to know. It was a subtle, bittersweet prelude to the life and love story that lay ahead. Tennille's rise to fame was a mixture of serendipity and talent, beginning with her work on a rock musical in Los Angeles, a project that unexpectedly changed the course of her life. It was there that she met Daryl Dragon, a gifted keyboardist with a storied past alongside the Beach Boys. Dragon recognized something beyond Tennille's musicianship. He saw a voice that could carry the spotlight. Together, they formed the duo Captain and Tennille, crafting a sound that would come to define 1970s soft rock. In 1975, their single Love Will Keep Us Together skyrocketed to #1, earning them a Grammy and securing a place in the hearts of the American public. Their subsequent television variety show amplified their charm, presenting them as the perfect embodiment of love and harmony. Yet beneath the glittering exterior, Tony later revealed life was far more complicated. In her 2016 memoir, she reflected on the carefully curated image. People saw us as this happy, loving couple, and I went along with it because that was the act. Behind closed doors, the relationship with Dragon was marked by quiet tension, emotional distance, and a sense of isolation that she carried silently for years. Despite the dissonance, Tennille continued to perform, her public persona radiating joy, while her private life simmered with unmet needs and unspoken truths. To the world, she was the effervescent, radiant partner in a musical love story. In reality, her journey was tinged with the melancholy of compromise, sacrifice, and the hidden cost of fame. Her story remains a haunting reminder that the smiles audiences see often mask untold struggles, a blend of nostalgia, triumph, and quiet sorrow. Toni Tennille and Daryl Dragon's story began as a meeting of minds and talents, a partnership rooted in mutual admiration and shared musical vision. Toni was drawn to Daryl's extraordinary skill as a keyboardist and arranger, and there was an undeniable spark during their early collaborations. Dragon's quiet, introspective presence gave him an air of mystery, one that Toni found both intriguing and magnetic. As their professional bond deepened, it blossomed into romance, culminating in their marriage in 1975. The very year Love Will Keep Us Together became a cultural phenomenon. For decades, they were inseparable on stage and off, celebrated as one of the music's most beloved couples. Yet behind the public facade of harmony and joy, their private life was far more complicated. Daryl was intensely private, withdrawn, and emotionally distant. Toni often described him as a good man, but a troubled man whose controlling tendencies quietly shaped the rhythm of their life together. He managed their finances entirely, seldom including Toni in decisions, and avoided confrontations or emotional discussions. As she later wrote, he just couldn't share his emotions. The contrast between their professional success and personal reality was stark. Toni increasingly found herself in the role of caretaker, managing daily affairs, making decisions alone, and navigating a marriage in which affection and communication were scarce. Even as they sang songs of love and connection to millions, Toni carried a growing weight of isolation and responsibility, convincing herself for years that supporting him was her duty. Over time, the facade of their perfect partnership became impossible to maintain, and the emotional cost of silence and compromise weighed heavily. Their stories celebrated on television screens and record albums belied the quiet struggles, sacrifices, and loneliness that marked the heart of their life together, a haunting reminder that appearances often mask the complexities and sorrow behind even the most dazzling success. Toni Tennille remained by Daryl Dragon's side for nearly 40 years, yet the one thing she craved most in their marriage, emotional intimacy, was always just out of reach. Over time, the quiet between them deepened into a chasm. She longed for warmth, conversation, and the simple reassurance of being seen. But what she encountered instead was distance. As she reflected, I kept trying to make the relationship better. Yet the painful truth became impossible to ignore. Daryl could not or would not meet her halfway. They shared a home and a bed, but Toni often felt profoundly alone, a presence invisible to the person closest to her. In her memoir, she captured the heartache with stark honesty. I was lying next to a man who would not or could not return my love. Those words crystallized the essence of her sorrow, a life shared with someone whose emotional doors remained firmly closed. Daryl was not cruel, and their marriage was far from abusive. Yet his withdrawal left Toni navigating a relationship defined by silence and unmet needs. She stayed year after year, hoping for even the smallest change, clinging to the hope that connection might blossom. But the hope faded slowly, leaving only the quiet weight of longing. By 2014, after decades of compromise and quiet endurance, Toni made the painful yet necessary decision to file for divorce. She later reflected, I knew I had to leave, not to hurt him, but to save myself. Her story is a testament to the delicate balance between devotion and self-preservation, a poignant reminder that even lifelong love cannot flourish without being truly seen. Toni Tennille's choice to leave Daryl Dragon was never born of anger or resentment. Even after their divorce was finalized in 2014, her care and concern for him endured. As Dragon's health began to decline due to a neurological disorder, later diagnosed as Parkinson's disease, Toni quietly stepped in, ensuring he had support and comfort. She relocated him close to her home in Prescott, Arizona, visited him frequently, and oversaw aspects of his care. "I wasn't going to abandon him," she reflected. "I just couldn't stay married to him anymore." Their continued closeness after divorce puzzled many, including Dragon himself. Despite her repeated explanations, he struggled to grasp why their marriage had ended, a confusion that had shadowed their relationship for decades. Toni had spent years offering love, support, and companionship, only to encounter emotional distance, and that very silence had been a core part of their struggle. Yet when Dragon needed her, she was there, a quiet anchor in his final years. In 2019, Toni was at his side as he passed, holding his hand in those last moments. Her grief was profound, but so was her understanding. She had loved him deeply, but leaving had been an act of survival as much as liberation. The divorce had not severed the bond they shared, it had reshaped it, allowing her to continue caring for him while reclaiming her own life. In that delicate balance of love and self-preservation, Toni Tennille's story reflects the bittersweet complexity of devotion, loss, and the quiet strength it takes to honor both another and oneself. For decades, Toni Tennille kept her struggles hidden behind the radiant smile that fans associated with her soft rock hits and the television variety show she shared with Daryl Dragon. Yet in 2016, she broke that silence with the release of her memoir, Toni Tennille, finally lifting the veil on the private life that had remained largely unseen. Writing the book was never an act of revenge or a bid for scandal. It was a way to reckon with her own story and offer clarity to those who had admired her from afar. Toni explained her motivation plainly. "I wanted people to understand that you can love someone and still leave them." The memoir traced years of quiet sorrow and emotional neglect, revealing the hidden costs of a marriage that had appeared idyllic to the outside world. She wrote with neither anger nor self-pity, but with a reflective, clear-eyed honesty that only comes from carrying the weight of silence for too long. Through its pages, readers glimpse the tension between public perception and private reality, and the courage it takes to claim one's own life and happiness, even when love endures. Toni's memoir stands as a thoughtful testament to resilience, a poignant reminder that love and self-preservation can coexist even when the world cannot see it. Toni Tennille's legacy is defined not just by her decades-long career in music, but by the enduring charm and warmth she brought to every stage, studio, and living room across America. Even after the peak of Captain and Tennille's fame in the 1970s and 1980s, Toni continued to nurture her love for music, performing solo, recording, and delighting audiences with her unmistakable voice. While the duo's "Love Will Keep Us Together" remains their signature #1 hit, Toni's voice also shone in other chart toppers like "Do That to Me One More Time," "Muskrat Love," and "Shop Around." Each song cementing the duo's place in pop culture and defining the soft rock era with its light melodic sweetness. Their variety show in the late 1970s further expanded their influence, turning Toni into a household name and a symbol of approachable, relatable stardom. Beyond the duo, Toni's solo ventures and collaborations showcased her classical training and versatility. She recorded jazz standards, Broadway tunes, and Christmas albums, always highlighting her skillful phrasing and rich tone. Her ability to balance technical precision with emotional warmth allowed her to sustain a career that spanned decades, appealing to audiences across generations. In her later years, Toni has lived a quieter, reflective life in Prescott, Arizona, embracing the role of mentor and advocate while occasionally performing for dedicated fans. She has remained candid about her personal struggles, particularly in her memoir and interviews, earning admiration not only for her artistry, but for her honesty, resilience, and grace. Her story is one of triumph and endurance, a reminder that success is not measured solely by chart positions, but by the joy and connection an artist creates. Today, Toni Tennille is celebrated as an icon of classic American pop, a voice that continues to resonate, and a figure whose legacy is defined by both her unforgettable hits and her steadfast authenticity.